for the first time now in this country, there's more people turning over 65 a day than being born, which is amazing. In that we provide a solution for them to remain as independent as possible and live out their lives and where they're most comfortable. One of the biggest differentiators we've created is a technology called Life Profile. And this is a evidence-based data tool that when we go into the home, we're taking lots of information and inputting it into an assessment when we're figuring out what care is needed.
Welcome to the Tracer Podcast, your inside track to all things franchising. We provide essential resources for anyone in the franchising world. Let's get into it.
All right. Welcome, Rob. I really appreciate you being here on the Tracer Franchising Podcast, where we interview top brands, the franchisors as well as franchisees, so that people can learn a little bit more about what's out there and what might be the right fit for them. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thanks so much, Joshua. Great to be here.
Awesome. So today, we're talking about senior helpers, one of the heavy hitters in the in-home care industry and franchising. But first, let's talk a little bit about you, right? How'd you get to senior helpers, and what's been your journey through that organization?
Yeah, it's been a long time. I'm coming up on my 10th full year working with senior helpers, leading up the franchise development efforts. Amazing journey of growing in a business that I consider somewhat mission-driven for profit. Emphasis on the profit side. This business is really increasing in demand and growth, and our brand is poised to help folks certainly be in business for themselves, not by themselves. So I started, as I mentioned, 10 years ago. Prior to that, I had worked for another Maryland-based franchisor in the childcare space. So I went from one end of the age spectrum all the way to the other with the types of services that I've represented. Companies that help others, and community-based businesses have always been something that I feel is a great space to find good people and work with folks that they can realize their dream of entrepreneurship with a lot of guidance.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I know that you started in the kid space, and I feel like you went to the growing demographics, right? Because I think adults, seniors are growing faster as a demographic than kids are.
Yeah, I think for the first time now in this country, there's more people turning over 65 a day than being born, which is amazing. And that growth of the senior population is going to continue over the next couple decades. In 2020, there were 56 million seniors living in the U.S., and 2050 will be 86 million. So that's a incredible amount of aging in population. I guess all the baby boomer generation had larger families, and those folks are getting older, and people are living longer now. And we provide a solution for them to remain as independent as possible and live out their lives and where they're most comfortable, and supporting them with a variety of non-medical care, but both personal and companion care services that we're known for.
Yeah, great. So I think that's a great segue to jump into the business itself. So we'll start high level, right? 30 seconds or less. What does the franchisee do? You just said non-medical, but let's get a little bit more detail of what exactly services are you offering as a senior helpers?
Yeah. So from a franchisee perspective, they're running and operating an office, typically in the beginning, a smaller office location that you will eventually build out an internal team as you continue to scale. But when we start our franchise, it's usually a 2-person tandem, one more focused outward in the field, working with clients and families to come up with a care plan, and then providing a caregiver into those homes that provides the work. Also, that person does a lot of networking, because a lot of our business comes from referrals within the medical community. So on one side of this franchise, you've got a more sales and marketing, and then on the other side is more on the staffing and hiring and talent acquisition, training of our wonderful caregivers who provide the services that we're known for, and making sure they're trained well and have a great place to work, and culture is so important to senior helpers. We've for 7 years now been a great place to work certified company, which takes a lot of work and a lot of responses on surveys from caregivers to owners to staff. It's just got a great company culture, and that's one of the reasons I've been here as long as I have, because I really love working here.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. And then you're offering in-home services, non-medical. Is it seniors only, or do you do adults with disabilities as well?
Yeah, we'll do adults with disabilities. Our name is very marketable, obviously, for seniors, senior helpers, but we do have offices that, traumatic brain injury, adults with disabilities. Uh, we don't work with minors or employ minors to our model, but yeah, typically adults and mostly seniors, I would say, would be our major market focus.
Very cool. And you guys have a few special things about the franchise, a few proprietary surveys and methodologies. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this is a very forward-thinking company in terms of our industry and helping find solutions for families, and whether that's the integration of technology and technology in the home, as well as our operating systems and the way we market our services. We have created a lot of national alliances and programs that are more specialty class, I would say, within the senior care realm that we're in. We've got an amazing Alzheimer and dementia care program that, while working with the Alzheimer's Foundation and a very well-known expert in the field of Alzheimer's care, a lady named Teepa Snow, created our one of our flagship programs years back was the Senior Gems, and it's a certification that caregivers can go through a rigorous training process to work with, the ever moving, chronic illness. Dementia and Alzheimer's is really a big challenge in this country, and finding competent, trained care is something that families really seek. From that program, we've built multiple others. I would say more than anything, we're an education company in terms of preparation for the caregivers. We've got a Parkinson's care platform that has really grown fast. Working here with Johns Hopkins in Maryland and with the National Parkinson's Foundation, created this super program for training caregivers in that area. And, the platform that we use for our virtual training has got hundreds of courses. So those are just two of our more signature care programs. But, we get seniors with all types of things factoring in, whether it's, they're diabetic, or they've got a COPD, or they've got a stroke, or the list goes on and on. And although the caregivers, not the physician, not the doctor, they're very educated in knowing how to respond and what to respond to in terms of the care that's needed based on the individual. One of the biggest differentiators we've created is a technology called Life Profile. And this is a evidence-based data tool that when we go into the home, we're taking lots of information and inputting it into an assessment when we're figuring out what care is needed. And within this assessment tool, it looks at uh, 5 different areas that we'll call social determinants of health within that home life of that senior, including safety and med management, how well they're adapting to what the doctor says they should be taking, their mobility, and can they get through their normal day with bathing and dressing and things like that. And we look at socialization and activities, whether they're living an isolated, lonely existence, and how that factors in. And within this technology, it takes all of those data points and has a scoring metrics that will show uh, the risk of hospitalization, medical occurrence, and poor health outcome based on a population of seniors that over a 20-year research study had shown what were common reasons for people having issues and hospitalizations. And to take that data and science approach into what we do, and to really give a a clear understanding of what we're going to support and how we're going to do it based on that individual need has been just an amazing tool, and it's been eye opening, and it's really helped get it right for what the client needs. And our referral partners out there in the medical community really appreciate this approach because it helps them too. Hospitals are always looking at readmission rates. You know, if people are getting discharged and back in the hospital within, say, a 30-day period, then that lowers revenue for that hospital system. It's costly, and doctors and rehabs don't want people coming back either after they've been to their appointment and they get kind of what they should be doing. Well, we're the ones who help them get that post care plan worked out in the home, making sure they're safe, well supported. Are some of the key things that we look into helping those seniors with.
Very cool. So it seems like, if I went to a home and I was talking to a family, they said, "Why should we go with you instead of the other guy?" Well, we have better technology, so that way we can make sure that they're being taken care of in a more appropriate manner, and they're on track to stay healthy. If they have Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, we have these special programs for them that's state of the art. It's been proven to work better than anything else. Um, and so it seems like it's a higher level of care, right? You're not trying to be the cheapest one. You're trying to be the best one. Is that a good way to sum it up?
Oh, absolutely. And this is still for many families the more affordable option than going into a facility. And it's where seniors want to be. They want to live out their lives in that home that they've lived in 40, 50 years. The average distance from the closest loved one, sons and daughters move away for work, and that's over 280 miles and growing in this country. And the problem becomes who's going to help out, mom or dad as they face these struggles and challenges. And even if family is available, are they trained well enough to understand the challenges of those family members? So for us, it's all about providing a level of care as if they were our own family, and we're going to make sure that they're taken care of properly. I would say through the talented caregivers that we employ and the training that we put into them, readying them for what they're going to do is amazing for not only the people we provide care to, but the families really find a lot of peace with knowing that they've got the right company in there with their loved one.
Very cool. And is it mostly cash pay or is it mostly insurance?
It's blended. When I started 10 plus years ago, this industry was still evolving, and we've been in business over 23 years now. It used to be mostly private pay. I mean, from a franchisee perspective in unit economics, your pay and collection is pretty consistent with paying out your caregivers. Whereas as this business has progressed, we're seeing a lot of alternative payer sources. Everyone's got to figure out this silver tsunami we're dealing with in this country and how we're going to help all these seniors. So you're seeing government programs, especially those impacted with chronic conditions like Alzheimer's, which we know there's no cure, but providing some assistance for them to be able to seek the type of care we provide is starting to open up in Medicare Advantage programs. Folks that have long-term care insurance can use this type of service. We do a tremendous amount across the country with our veterans through the VA hospitals. They have really gotten it right in terms of helping veterans with the needs that they have with a number of different programs. And for senior helpers, we want to help anyone we can. And the franchisees are given a lot of options with both national partnerships that we have as an organization, as well as some localized marketing within that community, because this is really a community-based business.
hmm hmm Very cool. Okay. And I mean, it really would have to be, right? Like, you're not going to send grandma to some like senior corporation, like you want to know
Right.
that there's a person there who cares about her. Um, okay. So that's why a person might choose you as a right, like customer might choose the franchise. Why would someone looking at the senior care industry pick senior helpers, right? And we were talking about this before. There's dozens of franchises in the senior space. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, there's some wonderful companies that are in this space. Senior Helpers is very fortunate to be one of the leaders. We've got a great brand reputation. This year got the number one ranking on the Franchise 500, which we're super proud of that. But I think it goes to the experience and the leadership and the programs and the level of support. We were ranked in the top 1% for operational support that we provide. Truly, for those looking for a business opportunity that they, want to be in business for themselves, not by themselves, this is certainly the franchise to look at. We've got operational team coaches that work with them. And it doesn't matter if it's a brand new owner and we're just teaching all the basics of this industry to the owner who's been here 15, 20 years. Those folks need coaching too. I mean, because this is a business that can scale with relatively low client count. The competitive landscape is very fragmented. One of the first things people notice is, wow, yeah, there are a lot of companies that are in this space, but to really scale and build it, it's not many clients as you may think that you need to get to profitability. So you've got the coexistence. I consider a lot of the brands out there, especially the good ones, who I know some of those developers out there, they're more frenemies than enemies to us. Because really, at the end of the day, they're all doing the same in serving people and families and providing just a valuable resource. Some just do it better than others, and I think those that really take the personal mission, our core values as a company, I think are very telling for the type of organization we are. Number one being integrity without compromise. Number two is we're dedicated to improving the quality of life of others. Open and effective communication is so important, especially when you're working sometimes with a family dynamic, not just the client or spouse of the one we're providing care to. Positive attitude. Aging gets enough negative connotation as we get older. We all complain about what we can't do anymore, but what we focus on is what you can do. And if we can help the senior remember who they were before they needed care, then we've had a positive impact on their life. Innovation, technology, support, work, continuous advancement is one of our core values. Finding new ways to solve old problems, whether it be technology or service, how we train, everything in this company is always forward thinking. We may be doing great today, but we want to continue to see what we can improve upon. And ultimately, our last core value is we help families celebrate the sanctity of human life and what we're given, and the appreciation of the elder population, for having been here, and how we can support them and as they age is really part of our mission to provide compassionate care and improve the quality of life of our clients, families, and our employees as an organization.
Very cool. So I like that you led with kind of the values first, right? Because I'm a franchisee, and I think if you don't resonate with the values, then the decisions they make on a day-to-day basis, you're going to disagree with, because they're always going to originate from those values, right? So
Yeah,
people need to resonate with those and believe in them.
I'm saying. I was going to say, in our discovery process, one of the first things that you share is the core value sheet that just talks through that, because I really want the candidate that I'm looking for to resonate with those core values. If someone just shows up looking for a fast buck or an opportunity to get into a profitable industry, and they're only thinking first with dollar signs, second about what it is we do, then I'm going to pause and really want to ask more questions, because the people make the difference in how our franchise has developed its reputation. And finding the best match, you've got folks with a variety of backgrounds and experience. You don't need medical experience to be a senior helpers owner, but you certainly have to have, I would say, those core values need to be checking a lot of those off that are matching what our company's vision and mission and value statement.
Yeah, yeah. And so let's talk about before we talk about the what it's a good franchisee, right? You got to talk about the what are people really doing on a day-to-day basis, right? Like they're not the franchise might be providing care, in-home care, but the franchisee is not doing that, right? The owner's not doing that. The
No,
owner's
right.
and correct me if I'm wrong, right? Kind of how I see this is, like you said, referrals. You need to, when you get the referral, convince them that you're the right person. So that's a sales element. Uh,
Yep.
there's going to be lots of hiring because you need caregivers. I imagine there's some churn in that. Um, Creating that culture, right? So that's definitely a big part of it. And then if there's insurance, there's got to be some financial aspect where you can't let your run outgrow your the cash reserve that you have, right? And again,
Exactly.
depending on cash pay. So of those things, what's like what are the things that the best owners are good at? Are they more HR people? Are they more ops people? Are they more sales people?
That's a great question, Joshua. Over the years, our model has always been okay, you've got two sides of this that you start with. You got more of an ops side and you got more of a sales and marketing. You're going to start with two. And typically, the owner, based on their pre-existing tool belt they bring in, might gravitate to one or the other, and then they'll hire a counterpart to really focus on the areas that they don't may not have as much strength. So if you're not a sales and marketing, getting out in the community type person, you'll hire that, and you run more of the back office operations, and your talent might be in the HR and the hiring and training and following the operational aspect of the business. I've seen, I've been here a long time, so I've seen. I think the owners that get out there and can promote their business because it's their business and have that influence within the community, and it's their baby, so they're proud of what they provide, and getting out there to in front of folks that can influence referrals through networking and marketing. I've seen more success on that side. That's not to say we don't have owners who take more the operations model, hiring out the salesperson. You just got to really look for that person for doing the sales and marketing that has empathy, compassion. This is not a sales in a traditional, selling a car or any type of like stereotypical selling. It's relationship building, and you've got
Yeah.
across the board, you're building relationships with networking, you're building relationships with the family, you're proposing your services to be provided, and you're providing employment for a lot of great people. So you've got to provide leadership and take care of those folks as well as you take care of your clients and your referral source. So it's a people business across the board.
Yeah. That's it's funny. I see that a lot where a lot of friends, oh, you could do either one, but typically those who are willing to get out and kind of do that sales piece, the referral piece, the networking piece, do better. But then it's like if you want that's to get you to like a million, right, or whatever, right, whatever that number is. But if you
Yeah,
want to scale to the
that's
next
exactly
million
right.
or the next 5 million or whatever, that person has to step
Yep.
back and be more on the leadership side and then hire the salesperson. So it's like, um, you need someone that can light the fire, but then can light
Yep.
somebody else's fire while they step back and manage things.
Yeah, and what better way to do it than put in some sweat equity? Maybe the first year, year and a half, that's your role as an owner, but inevitably your role as an owner will evolve. As to your point, you'll eventually be working more on the business and in the business when you have the right team, and having experienced, what it takes to do it, you're going to know what to look for even better, having uh, been starting out that way. And that's why for our model, an owner operator out of the gate is almost the only way that it really works. I mean, there are brands out there you can be semi absent, hire a team, unless you really got that team that can do the job. It makes a lot more sense for the owner to put in some sweat equity and then start pulling back into more of a leadership role and working more on the business and in the business.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean all the semi-absentee, right? Like you talk to the franchisor, they're like, oh yeah, you could do it, and then you talk to the franchisees, and they're like, no, I still work
By the way,
eight
yeah,
hours a day. I just have a job. Like
yeah,
yeah, so it's not real. That stuff's not real. Like if you have a
yeah,
partner, like a true partner who's going to be properly running the business, okay, well that's
yeah.
different. But you're not just hiring somebody to take something from zero to 100. Uh, okay.
Ex-
So
exactly.
let's keep going on the franchisor support, right? So people kind of know who you're looking for, what they're going to be doing day to day. I think the next biggest thing is training, right? And then ongoing support. So could you talk a little bit about how y'all do your training and your ongoing support?
Yeah, so it's quite involved process, and multiple members of various teams are part of the onboarding in the pre-opening phase, which, depending on the state you're in, you've got regulatory, you've got licensure. Some states it takes a little longer to get open than others, but we target 16 to 18 weeks from when someone signs to opening. And in that period of time, we've got 172 item checklist of things that we're getting accomplished and set up for that office to be successful. The worst thing we can do is open somebody before they're ready, before they're trained. So within 48 hours of a franchise marriage, sign the franchise agreement, they're on board, they're going to be introduced to a franchise operations manager. And that is really a liaison to all of the support the company will provide. But that's your coach. That person's going to be guiding. Now they're going to work with other folks on the operations team that might be more administrative supportive, whether it's licensing, getting the office site selection started, setting up vendors that you'll need. We've got people on that staff that you'll be working with various times, but you've got a coach that's going to guide you through a 12-week virtual learning platform. You're going to have regularly scheduled coaching calls where you're going through the materials, assignments. It's almost like being in grad school when you're getting ready and learning all about this business. We have a formal training where you'll come to our headquarters in Towson, and we have those scheduled about every other month throughout the year. So whichever one's the closest to the targeted opening date, which we've very structured, figured out where we're beginning and where we're looking to open, we'll put them in that particular class, because that's where they're really going to get, soup to nuts, every aspect of running and operating the business, from sales calls to HR to hiring, training, all the IT solutions. It's a 6-day boot camp that is long days, long hours with other owners in the same boat, um, that are getting ready to open their business. And once they complete that formal training, which we've done a lot of training leading up to that, so they're coming in warmed up to a lot of these concepts and programs and operational policies and programs. They're going to really put it into action with this in-person training. But where I was going with the training is, you're working on several steps, which include, office site evaluation, finding the right space, getting all the various vendors, payroll company, insurance provider, the various vendor network that you typically will need starting a business. We've got a whole vendor directory of companies, great pricing because of the size. We're over 400 locations, so buying powers is a thing when it comes to savings for the franchisees with certain vendors that they'll be using. So we're week by week, we're chipping away at this task list, getting them to the formal training. Once they graduate there, they'll open the business. The franchise operations manager will be closely linked to them. Always, as an owner, you'll have a franchise ops manager. We have a specific team that stays with them from the pre-opening through 12 months. And that team is really the patient, methodical, helping people get through that first year, learning curve. And then they'll graduate from that FOM, franchise operations manager, to another that may carry them for 4 or 5 years. And we have a matching of franchise ops manager to the individual. We run personality profiles on everyone. We want to make sure that their learning style, their management style. We don't do regional support. We really make an effort to hand pick the person that's going to really identify well with that franchisee and help them be as successful as possible. Once they're in the business, their first couple years, they get to that point where they might be an owner operator involved in some of the key functions. They're needing to start staffing to get larger to scale to the next level. That's where we have a secondary training called our Senior Helpers Grad Program. And we have so many offices that are just enormous in growth and revenue that that's a different skill set to get to that than it was to get to your first plateau, maybe your first million, first couple years in the business. You really have to rely on people, and you have to be much more strategic as an owner. And to me, that's when it gets fun. I mean, you don't have to be in the grind as much as you were maybe your first year or two in, but you're very much looking at key performance indicators and what staff impact has when you get it right with the right players on that team, and helping those owners to evolve into that style of leadership and management of their franchise is something we're quite skilled at, and that's one of the reasons why we have so many offices that are just doing tremendous businesses out there, because this business
Mhm.
growth is continual, and you can, as many caregivers as you can hire and clients that you can provide services to, the sky's the limit in this industry. And I keep thinking I've seen the largest office out there until someone knocks off that owner that year and takes the title of our number one office out there.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So on top of that, you have uh, education, right? So because the caregivers need a certain amount of education, right? Ongoing education, and that all comes from your online videos too, right?
Yeah. So caregivers, it's a blend. So one of the things that another innovation differentiator is every one of your office locations, you're starting the business out of around 1,000 square feet office, but the importance of that location, one is location near the medical audiologist. If you think about, where the doctor's offices are, the rehabs, near the hospitals, that's usually where our most successful locations. But within the space, it's really about hiring, training, and running the operation. So we set up what we call our center of excellence, and that's a training space that we actually will go the distance and make it look like a senior's home, from a living room to the environment they'll be in, and bring in the equipment that you usually work with a senior. Think walkers, wheelchairs, Hoyer lifts, gait belts, and make sure that the caregivers are trained on the hands-on skill. So through our training approach with our virtual training, coupled with our in-person training, we really feel it's the best way to engage with your caregivers, get them trained, trust but verify they know, and have the skills that they're going to need to be
Wait, wait.
performing
So
within those homes.
in every office, there's those things to train every single caregiver.
Yeah, so you'll walk into an office and yeah,
That's cool. What?
you'll see a conference room, you'll see a regular office setting, but then you'll walk through a door and it turns into grandma's house. And I think most in our industry have some type of training space. We just wanted to make ours more realistic because with our life profile, we can set up a room not to be safe. What a caregiver needs to look for safety hazards. So we'll set the room up with booby
Yeah.
traps of safety concerns and make the caregivers point out all of the safety concerns that senior might have. Might be pills on the table, could be electrical cords across the walkway that could trip and fall hazards, right down to the equipment they'll work with, and making sure they're competent. We hire a lot of trained, experienced caregivers, but we really want to know two things. It doesn't matter if they're, a lot of them are CNAs or home health aides. It's not the CNA as much as the DNA of that CNA that matters. And can we connect well? Can we want to see that? And we want to make sure that if they say they have the skill set to work with what they've experienced, we want to trust but verify. So we don't do that in a threatening way, but we make our training immersive, and there's some fun element to that, as well as, I think it's a better way to get engagement with your workforce and really show them that you care about the work that they're doing in a way that we want to make sure they're ready to be the best they can. And I think that sense of pride is carried into the homes of the seniors with those caregivers, really appreciating what it is we do and buying into the mission as well as the company they work for.
That's so cool. Yeah, I'm a big training guy, right? Like, I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years, and everything. The more dangerous it was, the more training you had to do, right? you're sending people into homes to take care of people who are in vulnerable states. So having that level of training, I think, is really cool. It's really important. So I like
Yeah.
that. Um, and then a little bit more on the employee side. So I've seen a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but I've seen several franchises that do 1099, right? But y'all are
Yeah.
W-2. Is that right? What,
100%.
why did
Yeah.
you make that decision? Yeah.
Yeah. It's really been an industry trend within, the you know, most of the companies nowadays are all W-2. I mean, from an independent contractor, there's certain limitations on how you can manage and control uh, the client experience. And we need to be able to trust but verify and need to direct and need to, the caregiver is the tool getting the job done, but the relationship and the well-being of the client is something that's managed holistically from top to bottom through our franchise owners. So we want to make sure that we're hiring people that we can train well and manage well to really ultimately do what's best for the client. So 1099 leaves you got liability concerns, insurance, we make sure everyone's licensed, bonded, and insured, and safety is of the utmost concern and high priority. So most companies out there today, I think you're going to find it's kind of frowned upon to be 1099 in this industry, because
Oh,
that
interesting.
leads to the
Okay.
how the wild west of what you read about in the papers, senior abuse and not having accountability. It's definitely the right way to do it for the seniors and families out there.
Okay. Very cool. Putting the seniors first. I like that. Okay, so let's go into financials, right? I do want to talk about recurring revenue and all this stuff, but the first thing everyone's going to ask is, what's an item 19? And for people who don't know, the item 19 is part of the franchise disclosure document that every franchise has to file with Federal Trade Commission. So these are the only earnings claims that they can make, right? So you can't go to a franchisor and be like, what's the net profit if it's not in the FTD, right? So um, Rob, I always like to caveat that with people because they're like, why don't they give me more information? It's like, well, that's all that's in the FTD. So legally, that's all they can say. So um, that's why part of the process is speaking to franchisees because they're not restricted. So if somebody called me up and asked me about my franchise, I could and I would. I tell them exactly how much money I made in the first 12 months. How much I'm making now, what are my margins. Most franchisees are like that. So anyway, all that to say, Rob, what financial claims can you guys make, and would you like to share on the call here?
Sure. Yeah, we've got a very impressive item 19. I mean, with as many locations as we have, and the average territory revenue is around 1.6 million. And we've got it broken down by 12 months, 24, 36, 48, and over 60 months. And each of those buckets, what the averages are, what the high ends are in revenue. One of the reasons you don't put net profit in there is because it's all based on a staffing model of what you're paying a caregiver to what you're charging as your rate, and you've got costs associated with all the readiness of having an office and training and licensing and insurance that are factoring in there. So your in cost is usually about double what you're paying per hour to your caregiver, and that's the margin of which you're profitability for your net. Now, your net from one owner to the next might be different for one than the other. If you hire an extra person internally to take a workload off of you as an owner starting out, that can affect your net profit. So, definitely, we have validation a big piece of the discovery process. Owners are at free will to share how their business is set up, what they typically will draw in terms of salaries, or if they're taking out of a quarterly profit that they've determined. How they compensate themselves is that's a business decision. Very lucrative business as you continue to grow, but you have to staff and build a team. So some of your fixed costs will not, won't be a factor for your second and third million, like rental cost of your office space, but team and personnel costs can increase. So you'll see a range of net profitability, which is very, very lucrative for the owner. Typically, after your first year, it really starts to take off. I mean, I've seen owners in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months start hitting numbers that really can get them in a good place. But I usually say your first year is a foundational year for the most part. So if you're planning on leaving a job into this, plan accordingly. If you need investment capital, you need yourself to be paid a salary out of what your initial strategy is. Yeah, you can certainly talk to owners that break even in 3 months and ones that are 10 months and ones that are 5 months, but you really should uh, capitalize the business for what the FDD calls for. Low number, high number range of investment is shown in the item 7. One of the reasons franchises can struggle is if you undercapitalize, you try to cut corners. The item 7 is there for a reason to really get a sense, including for our model. We put extra working capital in there because we want to be conservative, because we want more capital. If you don't use it, great, but if needed, we don't want those that might be slower out of the gate or faster uh, to have challenges when it comes to keeping the lights on, those types of things.
Yeah, yeah, so important, right? The item 7 is a range, doesn't include under salary, doesn't include paying down debt. So people need to really model. They need to think through their expenses within and outside the business and model that out and make sure they're ready for, um, worst case scenario. You shouldn't say, "Hey, I'm going to break even in 3 months because one other guy's done it," right? You should go after, if I can't do it
Yep.
for a year, right? Am I still okay? Because you don't want to be in a position where you're making decisions that because you're forced to, right? You don't make decisions because you want to. Uh, so
Exactly.
cool. And then let's talk about retention rates, right? And the are people signing up for like 12 months at a time, 6 months at a time? Um, what is that, or is it month to month? Like, tell us a little bit about the model itself.
Yeah, so our model works on a biweekly billing period. So you've got 26 periods within a year. And the types of clients, some of our marketing programs are targeted for longer term clients, people that are, dealing with a chronic illness that can be managed for many years, but support is needed in the home. Some of our clients are just needing us a few hours a day. That might be a post surgery recovery situation or rehab. We'll work with all clients. Most offices will tell you as they're building their business, some companies have minimum hours, but we always see that, the referrals that come from our existing clients, as well as the hours that build, if they start off with a smaller amount that can grow into something larger, happen. So we'll work with pretty much any type of hourly situation. Usually, looking at our statistics, average client uses our services around 24 hours a week. So we can do some modeling and projections based on how many clients it takes to get to a certain revenue. And then once you start building your business through incremental recurring revenue, you will have about 10% of your clients turn on a monthly basis because they are either shorter term. Sometimes, unfortunately, in our industry, people pass away. I mean, it might be an end of life situation where you're 24/7 when you're working with that client, but then, they pass, and then your client and caregiver, revenue obviously stops at that point. So the way we market our services is very broad. So you don't have all your eggs in one basket in terms of drivers for your revenue. We'll take the 24/7 clients because it's, what a honorable thing to help someone as they're transitioning, as an end of life situation, that we can be a part of that and supporting them, and that family really appreciates that as well. But that's not our only marketing. It really comes across a multitude of different hours and scenarios and clients that we care for.
That's cool. So it's flexible, which I guess kind of goes along with, you're really caring about the individual. So you're not going to say, "Hey, you're not paying us enough money, so we're not going to help you," right? Um,
Yeah.
so that's cool.
Exactly.
Okay. And then, the final financial piece is the exit, right? So do you often see people exit? Is there rules about, you can't sell to private equity? Like, what is the typical owner when they're ready to move on to something else? What does that look like for them?
Yeah. So we've um, you strategies that will with you, even in the early years in their business, to see what their exit strategy is. Coming into this, you kind of got to get an understanding of what the intent is with the owner. Is it a legacy business that they're going to pass on generationally? You're building an asset that has pretty high value in this market. Usually the ROI on what you invested versus what you sell for is a crazy multiplier once you build this business. And they don't stay on the market long. I mean, usually, for us, as large as we are, over 400 locations, I think we might have 12 on the market right now, and those usually go pretty quick. But the vetting of the owner and approval of the new owner has to be part involved with the franchisor as well as the franchisee, because you've got at-risk clients and revenue if it's just sold to anybody that shows up, just like we do with new clients. So we have a vetting process that we'll work with. Um, we've got a couple large groups that have acquired franchising, and they've got management teams in there selectively, so we don't prohibit that. Most of the time it's the owner is ready to retire and move on, but sometimes you get an owner that's 5-6 years in and they built something substantial, and they want to cash out, and it can get them a good multiplier and then move on to their next investment. That happens too. So the transfer process involves a lot of training, and we have a whole training and onboarding for resales that we do because we want to make sure the clients are taken care of, business doesn't suffer with the transition, and our support and guidance is equally as important as it is there to as to a new owner coming in and starting out.
Very cool. Very cool. And then for that exit, um, I totally forgot what I was going to say. That's all right. Okay, so uh, let's go on to the leadership a little bit, right? So tell us a little bit about the leadership of the franchise, as well as who owns you guys now.
Yeah, so we're very fortunate. Our founder and co-founder of Senior Helpers is our CEO currently, although we are owned by a capital investment group called Wad Capital, based out of Illinois. Fantastic ownership group, going through the process when they were acquiring Senior Helpers. I personally got to be introduced to many talented folks, and they've done nothing but just provide resources and support to enhance what we're doing. One of the draws for them for our brand was that we had a very well tenured leadership. Our folks that Peter Ross, our CEO, has put around the franchise to support our franchisees. Uh, Tenure is amazing. I mean, our chief operations officer has been here 18 years. Our senior vice president of training has been here 19 years. Our VP of marketing, Janet's been here 10 years. I've been the chief franchise development officer. I've been here 10 years. Gene, our vice president of new owner operations, has been here 11 years. A lot of experience and consistency working together. And Peter's, from when he started Senior Helpers, he's visionary. I mean, he very involved in our industry as our CEO. He's also been active in our industry. He was a past president of the National Home Care Association. He serves currently on a healthcare leadership council that sees what's going on in the industry in Washington. So very in tune to our landscape of competitively speaking, and just a well led team that he puts talented people in the right positions, and then they have teams with under them that provide the support that that gets us in that top 1% for supporting our franchises. We went through the whole franchise business review last year, which is a third party evaluation of your franchise by the franchisees feedback, and we got 4 major awards, and their second highest award that they had given for franchisee satisfaction. And I think that can go back to the leadership and the team and the core values, all the things we've talked about today.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, and one of the things, because I did read the FTD, right? It is that I saw those numbers like 2012. They've been around since 2015. They've been around since 2013. In the leadership section item too. And you almost never see that when you've been recently purchased by private equity, right? And because normally they put in their guys who doing, their stuff, um, all the things that give private equity a bad name. And so kind of seeing that you guys have private equity backing means there's the capital to do the expansion and to do the support and do all the training. Uh, but there's also the leadership that has the longevity. So it shows that they're dedicated to the actual well-being of the franchisees by keeping these people around. And again, that's another unique thing that I saw in the FTD. So I thought that was really cool. Uh, okay, so let's finish it off here with the future, right? So what is the future of senior helpers?
Yeah, so we're going to continue to grow and develop our core business, which is mostly in the United States. We're about, I would say, a third of the way there in terms of locations and potential territories. So we have plenty of local domestic territories. We're going to bring in 50 new owners to our mature system this year alone here in the U.S., which that type of growth tells you um, how the company's poised and the level of support. We're going to continue to enhance and grow our teams because we have standards that we will not sacrifice quality and support. So we're going to grow as we need to, but to give the right support along the way to the franchisees and really take this amazing brand to the next level. We're already growing to the top of the heap amongst our frenemies, and now we're looking to really expand even further.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, folks. Appreciate it. Josh Emerson, again, if you want more information, just general information on franchising, you go to tracerfranchising.com/resources. There's a matching quiz, there's a course, there's a book. There's anything that and everything that you can imagine on there to get more information. If you'd like to book time with me to answer any questions or to start getting the matching process, right? So we can see if maybe Great Clips or some other ones are a great fit. You can go to tracerfranchising.com. Just scroll down. There's a calendar link. You can book with me.